Hello. So my son and a couple of his friends are downstairs watching Sunday football, which is always good for a laugh. So this mic I use to record these is picks up a lot of noise. So we'll see. Not sure what you'll hear in the background. Okay. So as always, super impressive results and really interesting to see what's happening over time here. Just wanted to go over a couple quick things. So we've got August 2020 on the right here, and November, the most recent test on the left. Got some stats down here, just visually back to May. So from May to August, Mateusz, you had a 10% improvement on the balance point. And what I did here was put watts per kilo to compare that, because you were pretty much the same weight here. So this was a wattage improvement, and then you've had a decrease in weight. So I went over to compare the watts per kilo. So we've got a 10% improvement from May to August, and then just a little over 4% loss in the balance point watts per kilo here since August through kind of your busy time and all your studies and whatnot. Some other interesting things at that time is from May to August, you improved your lactate clearance by approximately 21 and a bit percent. So then now it's 45. So once again, your lactate clearance, which is one of those first things that we mentioned way back when, is still really improving, which is nice. And you can notice that if you look at the August test, what this means is your lactate combustion or clearance, when you get better at utilizing that lactate to produce power in August, you see how your recovery wattages, so these green dots are they create a line from the recovery wattages when you're riding at heart rate. So each time you ride by heart rate and you take a lactate, and we have that average wattage, it creates this secondary line. So you can see it's trending towards the old performance. And it actually, theoretically doesn't even really trend back onto performance till beyond your test. So, remember, that's 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 15 minutes, 20 minutes, 25 minutes. It's a long time of riding. And you can even see that performance starts to curve away. So if you look at the trend, you see one thing. If you look at the individuals, you see that it's actually trending away from performance. So the fact that you're probably not going to get back on after that effort. Whereas now you can actually see it's trending, trends back to very similar performance here. So when you get just past balance point, your performance it's only off like 10 watts from your original performance after going hard. So this is really what we want to see. Now you have two spots that are getting closer to the line, whereas before you had two spots that were kind of getting further away from line. So this is actually a really positive thing that we see here. The other is, we talked about this last time, where this lactate is probably a mistake, because generally speaking, what should happen is we create this lactate curve in the second part, and it at least has to head up towards that number, whereas these are more appropriate. So this is going to curve, and you're basically doing another lactate step test. So this has to get from just above 2 millimoles up to 12 again if you were to do another step test. Maybe someday you can do that. It's kind of cool what you learn. So 2 step tests in a row, a lactate step test, and then a balance point, and then just keep going until you can't go anymore. Sort of interesting what you see. Lots of strips, so maybe only do that once. Anyway, so there's your combustion rate's good for getting back on. Your recovery is better here. I made some training suggestions, but more of what you actually sort of were able to adhere to. I know you said you were able to train a little bit more than normal, but this is all pretty awesome. I did note that before you're in a, a negative deflection. Remember, this is sort of muscular fatigue here, which kind of ties in with this a little bit. But your muscular fatigue situation, that's not bad. I'll come back to that in a second. Right now, you're in a cardiovascular limitation. And so balance point wattage is down. It's more aerobic over here. So this cardiovascular limitation, once again, goes kind of hand in hand with this balance point dropping a bit. Because, whether we do some tempo or some endurance or a combination of both and maintaining that high end that you've sort of gotten during this time, that's pretty ideal. So, upper linear limit 350 in November, upper linear limit in August 350. So still there's not much change at the top end. MAP is a little bit better again, plus we're positive. So unless you didn't go to failure here, I can't recall, but using a negative deflection, the person tried their best and just lost some cadence and heart rate wouldn't go up. So lots of good things in this test actually. The other is, remember that when you pass balance point, there's no question. This is I think it's 268 watts, and I know just through conversation you had mentioned that you were doing your tempo over the last little while around 270, whereas before it was 290. So the your body feeling for balance points getting quite good. I'd say you've done an awesome job, and my goal here is to just try to help give ideas to a bunch of people that are learning or know their bodies really well, but maybe we're always overdoing it a little bit. And I'm trying to teach you how to pull back a little bit, sort of scientifically, and also maybe even to how to go hard when it's time to go hard. But you've done an awesome job. So I think this little shallow bit after the balance point, what it means is you're not far from a little bit more balance point work and endurance, being able to clear more lactate again one more step, right? If your balance point moves over 4 beats like it was here, then all of a sudden, boom, you're back up to your 295 watts again, like you were over here. So you're not far off. Let me see if I can work this computer gizmo here. Yep, here we go. Just one sec. I think I had this open and ready. Yeah. So the other thing I had a quick look at is, so there's always going to be a balance. So before, let's go back to July, your threshold was 310. It's roughly kind of faded to around 300 for a period of time, and then now you're probably more like 309, 310. Let's call it 310. So you're going to be roughly in this. You're not far below threshold wise. However, peak powers come up, HIEs come up, maybe from some of those harder sessions I suggested when you didn't have as much time. So this is where it gets interesting. You haven't lost much threshold. Your balance point's a little lower, but you've gained some HIE. Now it's time to figure out, are you faster with a 270 watt balance point with this HIE and this threshold? Or are you faster back here with a 320 threshold and a 295 watt balance point and a lower HIE? And I think that's going to have to come from you. You're going to have to really give me some feedback. And I know it's hard because back here you were doing group rides and you probably don't have any of that right now. But just a feeling, maybe try a workout or something that you've done back here, or just how you feel in certain kinds of workouts. I'd really be interested to hear that feedback as to, were you fitter back here or are you fitter now? If we go in quickly, sorry, let's just go back there for a sec. So if we look at lower training load, still not like, you got up to 107, you got up to 110, but you're still sitting in above 100 lower training loads. It's not like it's fallen that far as you're building. And so you've kind of got to a level and really been able to maintain that while you bring up the HIE. So once again, I just kind of be interested to see how you feel. If we go look at WKO, they all look at the math a little differently, but let me see if I can get this more in the center of the screen. Come on. Good enough. I just want this one here anyway. So the other thing, if we just look at software, and like I said, they all have their strengths and weaknesses, but similar pattern here where as you build CTL, it's interesting as you build a certain amount of CTL, it's MFTP and VO2 has gone up. So MFTP has kind of followed this line, and once again you're not that far below. You were 312, 310, and then you're kind of back up to 309. So that's not far off. VO2 is a little higher, which kind of matches up with that, which matches up with the other HIE coming up a bit. So I'd like to know how you feel if you have the ability to even have gone hard. So the testing, once again I think you've done an awesome job. I'd almost like you to give me some feedback as to what you think you're going to do next, and then maybe I can say yeah or no. Let's tweak this a bit, and maybe do that in the forum so everybody can watch, and if you have time to do that. So if we just do one more thing here and look at the alignment, you can see the power to heart rate relationship is similar. Your heart rates are a little higher now. We did talk about cardiovascular limitations, so those two things kind of go hand in hand. We talked about it in the other picture where the recovery is better. So it's funny if you can magically find a combination between this current Mateusz and the Mateusz of August. Keep some of that HIE, get this balance point back a bit. Now, keeping in mind you don't have to push it as high because of you're lighter. But let's get some feedback as to how you feel, and maybe shoot me some ideas on the forum as to what you think you should do next. Yeah, I'd love to see that conversation. Anyways, awesome job. Let me know if you have any questions.